December railfanning started out with a bang. On December 1st, we were out to catch NS 1074, the Lackawanna Heritage Unit. We decided to move down to the spot near the hospital since there was a crossing in view that we could use. Since it was absolutely freezing, we didn't want to get out until the crossing activated and then we could film the train. Simple. Except the crossing was being faulty and wouldn't activate until way after it was supposed to. So we ended up getting jump scared by two trains. First was this BNSF manifest with an H2 GEVO leading and a ACE trailing. And the next train was also a really good lash-up, with an NS-9 leading and LA SD70 ACE T4 trailing second. Realizing that our new location was crap and provided worse shots than the depot, we decided to move there, just in time for this eastbound C6M duo. Shortly followed by a very interesting train. This is a Union Pacific coal train transfer train. I think it's NS 553. Today it had Norfolk Southern power, which is pretty rare. Also, I've never seen this train before. Normally runs very early in the morning, but it was delayed today. After the NS GEVO and C6M leaders passed, I took the opportunity to get some B-roll of the coal cars, as I very, very rarely see coal trains. However, the real prize of the train was located at the end, an experimental, no flag but still with wings on the nose, UP GEVO. And then finally was the train that we were looking for this whole time. A Norfolk Southern intermodal with a GEVO leading, AC44 C6M trailing second, and NS 1074, the Lackawanna Heritage Unit, in third. I decided not to pan on the cab of 1074 this time, and instead pan on the rear section of it, so that way I could get a freeze frame of the video where all of 1074 was in frame. That's something I've really been thinking about, taking photos rather than videos of trains, but eventually I realized that that's going to make the videos look like crap. So I decided to just take a video, but keep in mind that I want a freeze frame that looks like a photo. And I think I did a pretty good job here. On the morning of December 10th, the Amtrak Floridian passed through Elkhart going westbound, with Amtrak 301, the Day 1 50th Anniversary unit, in the lead. I figured that, well, the eastbound that night had to have 301 on it. And I was correct. I headed out to the depot at the time the Floridian normally arrives, and lo and behold, 301 was leading, with a nice Phase 7 P42 behind it. Well, we've arrived at the depot, and there's a train sitting here, and look, there's another train stopping down there, a coal train. And look over here. Look over here, there's an engine hiding behind the cars. Look. C6M, I think. Yeah, there's a C6M. Look. What in the world? Can we catch a glimpse of this train's power? Looking down there. There's a light. Don't think it's another train, but what's that? There's honking coming from over there. Needless to say, when I arrived at the depot on December 15th, I was confused. With all this random crap here, I was just bewildered. We were out this day to catch NS 1066, but realizing it would be way held up with all this traffic sitting here, we decided to spend some time trying to track down the lead power on that manifest. And eventually we did, in the form of a C6M and Gevo. We had to drive pretty much to the end of town to catch up with these two, but we did. When we arrived, we found a bunch of MOW trucks sitting down, and it appeared as if the two units were having a crew change. Why they decided to do it here, I have no idea. Eventually, the two units throttled up and left with their manifest. The C6M was really smoking, or at least more than I usually see. So this is probably a good time to mention, I had no idea what was going on here. And frankly, I still have no idea what was going on here. It had to be some sort of railroad-related incident, obviously, but it had to be something that didn't affect the general public because I didn't hear about it on the news or anything. So it wasn't like some sort of pedestrian strike or train derailment or train catching on fire or anything like that. My best guess was that it was a hot box and they just decided to do a crew change here since they had to stop the train anyway. That C6M was already here before this train stopped, so it had nothing to do with it. As I was pondering this, an NS intermodal with yet another C6M duo snuck up on us. When we made it back to the depot, it was showing this signal aspect. Yeah, that's not normal. Anyways, after only a while, another train arrived, and guess what? It was an intermodal with two C6Ms. Wow, how original, Norfolk Southern. It's almost like the C6Ms are like 50% of all the power Norfolk Southern has. Oh wait, they are. Now let's take the time to go ahead and take a closer look at the AC-44 that was stopped, which turned out to be number 4867, one of the newest AC-44s. At the time these photos were taken, this unit was only 3 months old, or actually not because it's a rebuild, but you get the idea. Originally -9 4798, this unit has been with Norfolk Southern for well over 25 years at this point. I'll probably continue serving with them for many years to come. Literally, while I was taking those C6M photos, so like 2 minutes after the last train, more westbound headlights arrived. The westbounds were all held up behind that first stopped one, and as a result were going really slow and accelerating, which gave this eastbound NS intermodal enough time to clear before the westbound arrived. And luckily, in the lead was a very nice surprise, a pair of -9s with a Gevo trailing behind them. Lovely to see with all the C6Ms on this day. By now, it had been about 15 minutes since the westbound headlights showed up. They weren't looking any closer, and an eastbound, another one, was approaching. This time it was a BNSF transfer intermodal with 2 GEVOs. Wow, what interesting motive power BNSF has. This is getting boring. The westbound headlights were a little closer. Yay? I guess? I don't know. I was getting doubtful they would ever even arrive by this point. However, yeah, there was another eastbound that had to clear. And guess what? Guess what? You'll never guess what the power on this one was. 2 NS GEVOs. Wow! NS, you gotta start sending me better power like now. This is getting extremely boring. Well, apparently Pat Norfolk Southern listened to present me's demand because the next train was awesome. An Elkhart originating BNSF transfer manifest train with 5 units on it, 2 of them being H2-9s, and man, these guys were really smoking to get their train accelerating. At least the -9s were, because they're -9s. You know, that's kind of what they do. It's like their reputation. They pollute and they explode, and you get the point. By now, we had been waiting for 1066 for 2 hours, and we were convinced that this westbound had to be it. Based on my tone, you can probably tell, it wasn't. It was actually CPKC 231, with a glorious SD70 ACU leading, and of course a BNSF GEVO trailing second. Love the ACUs. This was the first non-heritage unit CP ACU I've seen, which was pretty crazy. I have showed one on the channel before, but it wasn't me who caught it, which was very nice, even if it was at the blue hour. Well, we got dangerously close to 1066 coming at night, but it did eventually show up on a westbound intermodal. My friend Liam, aka Conrail 8418 Productions, stepped onto the tracks to see if the unit was coming. And this is the funniest part. I said, dude, don't step on the tracks. We'll get the police called on us. 2 minutes later, the police showed up. Of course, they just said, don't step on the tracks, you complete idiot. Hopefully it doesn't step on the tracks again. Anyways, the train was cool. It was 1066 leading solo with a GEVO and AC44 C6M as the DPUs. On December 23rd, aka Christmas Eve, we were uptown and it was snowy. We were hoping to catch a train in the snow, but we never got one up close. The closest we got was this random Norfolk Southern intermodal with a fresh AC-44 leading and another one behind it that we saw from the parking lot of Kroger. RIP. On December 27th, Virtual Railfan just published their brand new Chesterton rail cam, and I really wanted to test seeing a train on that cam and seeing if I could make it to the depot before it arrived. We waited around for a decent train before eventually a BNSF intermodal with an H1-9 leading and GEVO trailing came through. After that, we rushed to the depot and we did eventually get there. And we thought we missed it. But after about 5 minutes of waiting, the H1-9 rounded the corner and there it was. Seeing as we didn't really have anything else planned for the day, we decided to stay at the depot for some extra trains. The next one was another BNSF Elkhart originating manifest, this time with 3 GEVOs. Then an eastbound Norfolk Southern manifest with, guess what? 2 NS GEVOs. Yeah. As I said before though, NS GEVO duos are actually kind of rare with how many C6Ms they have. And then the last train was, definitely during the blue hour, but it was a pretty cool train. NSB08 with 2 GP60s as power. As I've said, these are the only 2 standard cabs that regularly traverse this section of the Chicago line. Catch them while you can, they won't be around forever. And we finish off the month with getting scammed. This is December 30th, and CP7018, a Canadian Pacific Heritage unit, had come through Elkhart. I was stoked. Obviously, it's a CP Heritage unit, so I quickly rushed to the depot to catch it. We headed to the hospital spot since it was dark. Eventually, we waited, and found out that the train had hit somebody in Mishawaka. Okay, it wasn't 7018, it was another random NS train. But yeah, that held up all of the westbounds. This is the second time someone has gotten hit by a train in Mishawaka this month. That's just ridiculous. They need to do something there to prevent people from walking under the tracks and getting absolutely bodied by a train. Anyways, we decided to stay as the Amtrak was coming and we knew it would be. And after a while, it did, with a Charger leading and a P42 trailing. Kind of strange to see both of them in the same lash-up. The eastbound signal was green, so we figured we'd wait for the train. It was a Norfolk Southern intermodal with C6M leading, GEVO trailing second, and an ace in third. I penned on the aces, NS is still storing their aces. I still can't believe they're doing that. By this point, my dad hadn't had dinner yet, so he ran to Taco Bell to get some dinner. We made it back and hoped that CP7018 would be there. We said, We'll wait for one train, and if it isn't 7018, then we'll bail. It wasn't 7018. It was an NS intermodal with 2 GEVOs sandwiching another ace. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was fun to make, as all my videos are, but I do have to say, this month was kind of bad. I got scammed a lot with trains. I didn't show it on camera, but I had at least 3 times where I had one thing planned during a day and the rest of it was open, and the train I was tracking came during that exact time. I guess that's just what you have to deal with railfanning. Anyways, I've got a really big announcement coming up soon, so tune in for that. And as always, make sure to come back next time for another documentary just like this one, and catch those units while you can.